Hello students, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to our initiative on current affairs for beginners. Let's see the basics in today's newspaper. The first article is private institutions to come under scrutiny. I have taken this article from the local edition. Here, my objective is to tell you regarding this Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. In this act, we need to know what is Internal Complaints Committee. Internal Complaints Committee under this act is mandatory for all organizations that have greater than 10 people or 10 employees. In this committee, what is the constitution of this committee need to be read from here to here. The committee should consist of half of the members women, and presiding officers, they need to hold the office for 3 years. Likewise, there are conditions under constituting ICC. Whenever we read such acts, we need to go to the website of that particular ministry and read FAQs, frequently asked questions. For example, to read this article, I went through Ministry of Women and Child Welfare. When I read this FAQs, the questions came up are whether ICCs are to be constituted even in the private organizations. That is one question. Yes, they need to be constituted there also. If the woman who got harassed does not belong to that particular organization, then also can she complain in the ICC if the harassment is done at that particular place is another question. Yes, if the employee is from this organization and if he or she sexually harasses a woman in that workplace, then she can complain it to the ICC. Then ICC can resolve the issue internally, or it can go for complaining it in the police station. Likewise, there are conditions or questions that are asked in FAQs. If we observe carefully in our prelims examination, whenever the examiner asks for questions on acts, they give such points. So to answer such questions, we need to read FAQs. The next article is regarding cyclonic circulation in Haryana. Here, yesterday there was a cyclone because of which heavy winds and dust storms experienced in states like Rajasthan and Western Punjab, Haryana, etc. We need to know the basic on what is cyclone. What is a cyclone? That we need to know under basics. Cyclone. Cyclone is nothing but a circular wind. Within the name itself says cyclone is circular wind. Cyclones are of two types. One is tropical cyclone. Two, temperate cyclone. These are classified based on the area in which they originate. Tropical cyclones originate between 23 degrees north to 23 degrees south. In these areas, cyclones originate. They are called tropical cyclones. Above this, in the temperate regions, from 30 degrees north to 60 degrees north and 30 degrees south to 60 degrees south. In these regions, if cyclones originate, they are called temperate cyclones. In this particular news article, the mention is about tropical cyclones. Tropical cyclones. For tropical cyclones, the necessary precondition is to have strong low pressure zone which attracts winds from all the directions. For example, this is low pressure zone. Low pressure zone, in general, winds move from high pressure zone to low pressure zone. From high pressure, winds move from all the direction to the low pressure zone. For tropical cyclone, the first condition is to have strong low pressure zone. 2. Over a oceanic surface. Oceanic surface should have warm water. So, the condition is the warm water should have 27 degrees Celsius or more than that, so that this oceanic warm water provides continuous moisture for the formation of the clouds. So what happens is, around this low pressure zone, the clouds form, the wind rises upwards and clouds form. Mostly the clouds form are cumulonimbus clouds. Cumulonimbus clouds are the most rain-bearing clouds. The other condition is Coriolis force should exist. That's why in the equatorial region where Coriolis force is absent, the tropical cyclones do not originate. Only between 5 to 23 degrees. Here 5 degree north to 23 degree north, 5 degrees south to 23 degrees south. Only in these regions tropical cyclones originate. In the zone, in the calm zone, in the equatorial belt, these do not originate. So these are the primary conditions to have a tropical cyclone. In this low pressure zone, it will be free of any cloud. This we call as eye of cyclone. These are the basic things that we should know. Here in the newspaper, tropical cyclones led to the rainfall in the regions of western Rajasthan, western Punjab and Haryana regions. Along with the tropical cyclonic formation, we have a term called western disturbances. What is western disturbance? Western disturbance is nothing but a wind blowing from west to east from the Mediterranean Sea. This wind divides into two when it reaches Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau. So this wind also carries moisture with it and dust also because of the desert region over here. So because under the influence of western disturbance, the dust storms occurred in these regions. These are the basics that are discussed in that article. Next article is on China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is part of OBOR. In yesterday's video, we have discussed that OBOR, One Belt One Road initiative, is the initiative of China. It is under two routes, land route and maritime route. Land route is Silk Route, maritime Silk Route and land Silk Route. These two are planned under OBOR. CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is part of the land route planned under OBOR. CPEC passes from Kashgar province of China to Gwadar province of Pakistan. Gwadar. It has port known as Gwadar port. Kashgar is one area, westernmost area in the China. So from Kashgar to Gwadar, this corridor, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is planned. This is the map. Here Kashgar is here, the western China. It passes through POK, which we consider as part of India. POK is Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. This CPEC passes through POK and reaches till Gwadar port. India says this CPEC, this corridor, violates India's sovereignty because the land POK is under conflict between India and Pakistan. Any involvement here is a violation of India's sovereignty. This is the major irritant between India and China relations. CPEC is the irritant between India and China relations. The next article is regarding AIIB. Here AIIB means Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. AIIB is proposed by China. We have many countries from Asia Pacific region which are members of AIIB. The objective of AIIB is to fund the infrastructure projects in the Asia Pacific region. This is the objective of it. All the member countries contribute some capital as seed capital for AIIB. So these countries, whatever countries are contributing to it, they have voting rights. But these voting rights are not equal. They are calculated as per the capital contribution. If China contributes more, it has more voting right. Likewise, voting rights are unequal. It is based on capital contribution. It is likewise to IMF. In IMF also we have quota system. Quota system is also based on the contribution of capital. AIIB is seen as alternative to the Western sponsored AIIB and IMF. Here, this interview is given by ADB President. ADB is Asian Development Bank. Asian Development Bank is majorly funded by Japan and USA. This was established in 1960s. Its objective is to fund the projects in the emerging and developing countries all over the world. Asian Development Bank gives loans to both the sovereign means governments and private individuals also, private companies also. In this article he says these two, AIIB and ADB, need not be conflicting institutions, they can cooperate. This is the gist of it. Next article is on input tax credit, Krishi cess. Here we need to see two terms here. What is Krishi Kalyan cess? First, let me tell you what is a cess. Under Article 270, Union Government has authority to levy cess. Cess means extra tax on the tax. For example, one taxpayer is paying 10% tax. On this 10%, cess is levied for specific purpose. For example, Krishi Kalyan cess is for farmer welfare. For farmer welfare, they have imposed 0.5% of tax on the service tax. Whatever the service tax we are paying, on that 0.5% tax is added as KCC, Krishi Kalyan cess. This cess need not to be shared with the states as part of the shared pool of taxes. It is held with the center and used only for the specific purpose with which it is constituted. The next term is input tax credit. Input tax credit is part of GST, Goods and Services Tax. Under input tax credit, what happens is, let's take buyer A. He bought some commodity or good at 100 rupees, on which he paid tax of 18% under GST. So the total cost becomes 118 rupees. By adding some profit, let's say he sold it to 130 rupees to some another buyer B. Buyer B has to pay the tax now. So he won't pay the tax on 118 rupees. He will pay tax only on the 12 rupees, that is value added. 12 rupees is the value added. So only on this he pays the tax. This tax is called, the exemption on this is called input tax credit. The next article is on GST Council. Here the basic thing that we need to know is GST Council and e-way bill. These are two terms that we have here. First is GST Council. GST Council is constituted under GST Act. GST Act. The composition of GST Council is Finance Minister of Union is Chairman. Minister of State for Finance is member. Minister of Finance at central level is member. All finance ministers or ministers who is looking after taxation at the state level, they are members. It means Both center and states have representation in the GST Council. GST Council take decisions on GST rates, reforms in the GST network, exemptions for the GST. All these are taken collectively by the GST Council. It is seen as one of the successful models for cooperative federalism because states are given equal status in decisions with regard to finances. This is basic of GST Council. Next term is e-way bill. Prior to the enactment of GST, if a good wants to transmit from point A to B, which are located, let's take case 1. This is within the state. Within state means intrastate. Outside state, it means interstate or between states. Then this goods, the transport truck has to pass through different checkposts. At each checkpost, it has to submit it permit. Permit for the vehicle, permit for the goods that they are transporting. This was there because at that time every state has different tax at different levels. But now all these taxes, all the indirect taxes are subsumed under GST. All the indirect taxes except custom duties are subsumed under GST. Now we have only one single tax. So the transporter of goods need not submit every time the permits, every time they need not show the taxation receipt, etc. That's why for reducing that, e-way bill is proposed. E-way bill is nothing but an electronic message kind of thing which they have to show whenever there are checkposts. That's it. One time the transporter takes it. This can be generated either by the transporter or by the supplier or by the receiver of the goods. Next, here Tiwa tribesmen, this can be asked in our prelims examination. This Tiwa tribesmen belong to Kabri Anglong district of Assam. Here this is their harvest festival. So I have just given this image to remember the facts for our prelims examination. Remember, Tiwa tribesmen. These are the two questions that I have given for today. This question is regarding AIIB. Next question is regarding tropical cyclone. Please go through these two questions and try to answer them. Thank you.